Hi guys, in this video we will be discussing the concept of geostrophic wind. Let me tell you right in the beginning that if you understand this concept very clearly, you will never face any difficulty in retaining this for the long term. And if you try to cram it without understanding it, I guarantee you that you will never be able to retain it even for more than 2 days. So, in this concept, we will be discussing about geostrophic wind and the three forces that affect the movement of winds, and those are the Coriolis force, the frictional force, and the pressure gradient force. And if you have still not subscribed this channel, then I must say that you are losing out on a big knowledgeable stuff. Then you immediately subscribe this channel and you will like and share this video. I know that. Alright, let's start. So first of all, I would like to break the myth of the geostrophic wind. Many people think that it is some very strange concept that we will never be able to understand, but let me tell you that it is nothing but a type of wind. And we all know what is a wind. Wind is basically the movement of air, right? And geostrophic wind is nothing more than a special type of wind which emerges out of the balancing of three type of forces. So there are three forces which particularly affect the movement of wind, and when those three forces are particularly balancing out each other, a new special kind of wind blows which is called as the geostrophic wind. I guarantee you that no one will ever explain you in such easy terms the meaning of geostrophic wind. So before we going ahead, we have to understand what are these three forces. So first of all, the first force is called as the pressure gradient force. See, whenever you are trying to understand something, just try to break down the three words. It says pressure, gradient and force. Whenever we talk about pressure in geography, we are talking about the atmospheric pressure. So as we know that the atmosphere exerts pressure on Earth, and due to many different factors, the atmospheric pressure varies from a place to place. That may be due to solar insolation, that may be due to n number of factors. So therefore, let's say this is the city of New Delhi, and let's say this is the city of Mumbai. We know that New Delhi experiences continental type of climate and Mumbai experiences coastal type of climate. So we know that there will definitely be a difference in the atmospheric pressures over New Delhi and over Mumbai. And what I mean by the difference in atmospheric pressure is that the amount of air in the city of New Delhi exerting pressure on Earth will be different from the amount of air exerting pressure over the land in Mumbai. And this is a fundamental law that if it is wind, ocean or anything, the movement takes place from high pressure to low pressure. Of course, this is osmosis. We know it very well. So, whenever there is high pressure of anything, it's a very generalized phenomena, even if it's wind in the current context, but it holds true in any case. So, the high pressure winds move towards the low pressure area, and the difference between the high pressure areas and the low pressure areas is nothing but a pressure gradient. So in the PGF, the pressure gradient force, I first explained you the meaning of pressure. Now I explained you the meaning of gradient. The word gradient means difference or variation, and the term force signifies a kind of pressure, that is a kind of movement. So the pressure gradient force entails the movement of wind from one place to another place due to the difference in atmospheric pressures. This is the simplest definition of the term pressure gradient force. Now, pressure gradient force can be vertical, it can be horizontal. From vertical, what I mean is from lower troposphere to upper atmosphere, that is the upper chains of upper troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and it may be the horizontal movement of wind also from one place, like I say New Delhi to I say Mumbai. So this is nothing but the pressure gradient force. And well, it will be beyond the context of this video, but even the movement of monsoons that also are strongly influenced by the pressure gradient force. So the next force that affects the movement of winds is the Coriolis force. The Coriolis force is nothing but the force that arises from the rotation of the earth. As we know that the earth moves and rotates, because of which there is a deflection of winds. So therefore the winds are also deflecting, and in the northern hemisphere the winds are deflected towards the right, and in the southern hemisphere the winds are deflected towards the left. And this can be explained even from this simple diagram, that if this is the equator, these are the subtropics, the wind will blow like this. And why I am saying like that, if you see that the winds which was supposed to move towards the equator, they have been deflected to their right. Similarly, in the southern hemisphere, the winds will be deflected towards the left. Why I am saying that? Because the winds were supposed to blow like this, and now they have been deflected to their left. Now, if you are listening to my video very carefully, you will definitely have a question: why are the winds going from poles to the equator? This is nothing but the pressure gradient force. As we know that near the equator, the influence of the sun is the maximum, and it is a very extremely low pressure areas, while at the polar highs, we have a very high pressure areas. So as we see that due to the pressure gradient force, winds move from the high pressure areas to the low pressure areas. So the winds will always move from the polar areas to the equator areas. Now they should have been in an exactly straight manner, but due to the Coriolis force, that is due to the rotation of earth, they have been deflected in a different direction. Giving you a practical phenomena, let's say you are flying in an aircraft and you are going from Alaska in USA to the eastern coast, let's say towards Greenland. But while you were going, you should have been in an ideal world flew like this, but actually the airplane goes like this. This is nothing but due to the Coriolis force, and this is known as the large deviation of the Coriolis force. Now let's say that you were flying from Japan and you wanted to go towards Florida. So while you were flying, you crossed the international date line and you were flying, and if the pilot does not do anything special, you will land up in the Caribbean. Why? Because of the Coriolis force. There is a deflection of winds, and therefore there is a deflection of aircrafts also. But if you notice closely, here was a very large deviation, while here there was a quite a small deviation. Now if you move even towards the equator, and here you are coming from the mid-Pacific towards the Peruvian coast and Venezuela, what you will see is that there is absolutely no deviation. If you are flying from here, the pilot is not doing anything else, the plane will flow in an exactly straight and circular manner. No deviation. Why? This is because at the equator, the Coriolis force is equal to 0. Yes, the Coriolis force is not negligible. It is 0 at the equator. And why is it so? Because of the mass of the earth. The earth is in a geoid shape. Because of the geoid shape, it has a bulge near the equator sides. Therefore, the Coriolis force does not have much effect at the equator level, while it rises as far as we go towards the polar areas. The same holds true even in the case of firing bullets or anything which is going from the air. So I hope the Coriolis force effect is crystal clear in your mind because it has a wide range of applications in geography. The third and the very simple force to understand is the frictional force. Frictional force is nothing but the force following Newton's third law, that when you try to pull anything, it will exert a pressure on the other side. That is, as we understand friction, friction means to stop. So let's say on a road there are many pebbles. While the wind is trying to blow, these pebbles will struck the movement of winds. Slowly and ultimately they will try to stop the wind or will slow the wind. This is known as the friction force. That is, when two elements collide with each other in opposite direction, they tend to stop each other's movement or affect each other's way. So now we have understand what is the pressure gradient force, what is the Coriolis force, and what is the frictional force. Now you will be able to appreciate that these three forces will affect the movement of wind in a great manner. So this is a typical isobars diagram which will show the movement from high A pressure areas to low pressure areas. The isobars, which are frequently mentioned in different geographical aspects, isobars are nothing but the diagrammatic lines connecting the areas of equal atmospheric pressure. Like for example, there are some cities or there are one place on the globe, all the cities having the atmospheric pressure of 1005 millibars will flow from this line. All the lines having 1008 millibars will fall on this line, and all having 1010 millibars will fall on this line. Now, in an ideal world, what should be the direction of the wind? As we see and as we commonly understand, the ideal direction of the wind has to be in this way. Right? We have been learning this since our childhood and we have been experiencing this, that when a man is standing and he facing the wind blowing and he feels very good that the very cool winds are blowing, he thinks that the winds are blowing in a perfectly horizontal manner. That is also the ideal direction of the wind, that when there would have been no force, and in our ideal mind the wind should have been flowing in an exactly horizontal manner. But we have just understood that there are three kinds of forces which will be affecting the direction of the wind. So before going in the collective effort of these three forces on wind, let us understand their individual impact. So as we know that the pressure gradient force makes the wind moves from the high pressure areas to the low pressure areas. So as we know that this is the high pressure area and this is the low pressure area, so any kind of air mass or air parcel at this place will automatically tend to move in a perfectly vertical manner upwards. This is nothing but the pressure gradient force. Alright, that's perfect. However, there is another force known as the Coriolis force, and we have seen that the air mass present out here will be deflected towards it right. We know in the northern hemisphere it reflects towards the right, in the southern hemisphere it reflects towards the left, and in an ideal world the wind direction which was supposed to move like this will now move like this because it has been deflected. However, the pressure gradient force says that the wind which was supposed to move like this will move like this. This is the individual impact of these forces. Now there is another frictional force. The frictional force will say stop, don't, no need to go anywhere. So the wind was supposed to go like this, but there are many sediments or there is any kind of obstruction which results in stopping of the wind and moving it back. This is the frictional force. Now we come and understand the three aspects surrounding around the movement of the force. Here is some air mass. Air mass is nothing but the collection of a large amount of air. The pressure gradient force wants this air mass to move vertically upwards. The Coriolis force wants this air mass to move in this direction, while the frictional force is pushing this air mass in this direction. And we know that the ideal direction of wind should be in this direction. So can you make any guess what will be the real direction of the wind? Where will the wind really flow? Pressure gradient force wants it to flow upwards. Coriolis force wants it to flow in this direction, and the frictional force wants it to take a U-turn. So the real wind will flow in this direction. That is, all the three forces have their impact on the movement of the wind. This is the real direction of the wind. It is neither vertical, neither horizontal, and of course it cannot be backwards because the frictional force can never exceed the strength of the movement of the wind or the air mass. So it can never go back, it can ultimately slow down. However, what say that these three forces try to balance out each other? What will happen in that case? Let's say the pressure gradient force is asking the air mass to go up, while the Coriolis force is asking the air mass to go down. And if we are in the upper troposphere, there are no kinds of sediments or anything which can stop or slow down the movement of the wind. That is, there will be no frictional force at this area. The pressure gradient force has balanced out the Coriolis force. They both are of equal masses. So where will be the direction of the wind in this case? The direction of the wind will be in this case in the exactly ideal manner which we think in our mind, and that exactly ideal manner is nothing but the geostrophic wind. That is the type of wind which flows perfectly horizontal to the isobars due to the balancing out of pressure gradient force, Coriolis force and the absence of frictional force is called as the geostrophic force. Guys, I have explained you in crystal clear manner that geostrophic wind is nothing but a special kind of movement of wind which happens due to the balancing of the frictional force, the Coriolis force and the pressure gradient force. Now you will think that why is this only in the wind? Can it happen in the oceanic currents also? Yes. Even when this concept is observed in the movement of oceanic currents. We know that in the northern hemisphere and in the southern hemisphere there are different types of circulation patterns of oceanic currents. There are certain called counter equatorial counter currents also. Have you ever imagined why counter equatorial currents are always flowing parallel to the equator? Because they are nothing but the geostrophic currents. The geostrophic currents because they have been balanced out the Coriolis force and the pressure gradient force. So now we are able to understand the concept of geostrophicness, which has wide applications. This happens due to pressure gradient force, which is nothing but the difference in different kinds of pressure variants. Then there is the Coriolis force, which is nothing but due to the rotation of the earth, and then there is the frictional force. I hope that I have explained you in a crystal clear manner all these four concepts and their application in the oceanic currents also. If you like even 1% of this video, then please share this video to all your social platforms and like and subscribe. I'm waiting for your views and comments, and let's try to make it as productive as possible. Alright guys, see you in the next video.